grateful to finally be back at my desk where everything is more or less normal as it should be after a very curious, exhausting, interesting, eye opening lesson learning day yesterday. And I want to talk to you about it because, curiously, and yet coincidentally, maybe, or synchronicity, maybe, what happened yesterday is a big reflection, I think, on a lot of the issues that we're all dealing with, and certainly something very, very relevant, important in terms of the work that we are doing together on this concept of pivotry in motion, resetting the mindset, looking at what we thought we saw and saying, wait, what? And then realizing that we need to do some recalibrating in our assumptions. And this is part of growing, and it's part of changing, and it's part of also taking ownership and maybe policing our boundaries a little better, right? Okay, let me just have a sip of coffee and then we'll get started. So it's not relevant how long I drove to attend this meeting yesterday, except that it was 4 hours round trip. And did I mind? No, I love to drive. I love my car. It was a beautiful day. All the trees were in Abbey colors. I mean, if it was any other reason that I was going for a 4 hour round trip, it would have been lovely. And so for the time I was in the car, it was lovely, except that this was my mandate yesterday. I am the executor of my lovely friend Dave's estate. And, in that capacity, in that role, any other relationship involved is still relevant, but it's over there. What happens when somebody makes you the executor of their estate is they're saying to you, these are my wishes. This matters to me. It reflects who I am and what I believe in and what I want to leave behind. Good morning, Freddie. And I trust you to take my wishes and honor them and put them into effect. I trust you to be my soldier. I trust you to walk this through whatever doors, up and down, whatever paths and hills, and to reject anything less than excellence. I trust you. This is my placing this on your shoulders. That's how I read it. That's how we discussed it. And that was what I agreed to do. So yesterday was the day. Because finally, all of the assorted legal bells and whistles and reluctant dragons had finally said, yes, all right, it's all good, it's all valid, and yes, she's in charge, fine, go ahead. And I had all the documents. And I had made sure all the documents were correct, because in the first pass, they weren't. And so everything got corrected, and that's when I made the appointment, and I went to sit down with some financial people. And the weirdest thing happened. And it's very difficult when you have an emotional attachment to things to place that emotional attachment where it's helpful to you, not blindsiding you, not causing you to think with the wrong part of your reasoning process, right? You need to use the emotional thing to galvanize you and to keep you purposed and focused. You also have to have a very, very clear set of what your plans are and what your outcomes and goals need to be. And so that's how I went in. And I thank my upbringing as a military kid. I thank show business. I thank the hateful months of last year where I had to do both those things simultaneously for days and days and days and days. And I've always had to do that. So I have become skilled at it. So when I went in and I sat down with these people, this remarkable thing began to happen. And it concerned me on a lot of levels. And here was the remarkable thing. When you sit down with people and they have to transfer funds from something to something else, and you are the middleman, you are the door through which this must pass, there's a lot of forms to fill out. And a lot of the forms had already been filled out in a kind of a preemptive strike 4 months ago when we initiated this. We have all of the what foundational documents in place, Abby, for the estate when it is approved. We have all of this for your personal account when it is all approved. So I was surprised that we had to do it all over again. And in fact, we did have to do it all over again. And how they did that, and I said, why are we doing this all over again? We spent 2 hours last time doing this. Well, we have to redo because now it's legit. And I thought, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind. So, and it's tedious. It's like naming blades of grass. You think, well, it's not that big a lawn and this will be fun. And I got to tell you that after the first 437,000 blades of grass, you name all of the rest of them Bob. That's all. So what happens is it numbs you and you start saying, yes, yes, fine, fine, fine. And then I caught myself and I said to myself, I didn't say to them, no, you know what? I don't think so. So I said, actually, can I have another look at that? Oh, actually, can I have another look at that? And they would say, what? And I said, yes, can I just have another look? I just want to make sure. I thought I caught something out of the corner of my eye. And I got the documents back and I started seeing mistakes. And the mistakes were extraordinarily dumb. I mean, Olympic level dumb. You can't spell my name wrong differently on 3 documents. You can't ignore that a legal document says middle initial and then not put it there, but put it someplace else. If this is your function, this is what you do, this is why they bring you in for this step in the process. This is all you do. And, oh, I didn't realize. Okay. But then on the next document, it was in the right place. Only the last name was incorrectly spelled. My street address was incorrect. I said, that's not my apartment number. That's not my building number. You've neglected to include the word avenue. Oh, does it matter? Well, yes, it does matter because that's on all my legal documents. Oh, and that's not my marital status. And that's not my age. And this is not my driver's license number. And by the way, it's an Ontario driver's license. So you have Quebec here. Oh, and it went on and on and on and on. And then when they got my age wrong, they had my date of birth. They know what year this is. You take the year it is, you subtract the date of birth, you get your age. I know this. They got it wrong. And I said, that's not my age. And 2 people and a third one on a Zoom all went, oh, really? And math is what they do, right? You work at a bank. Math is what they do. Numbers is what they do. I'm in show business. Now, I happen to know my age because, after all, and I swear to you, one of them said, oh, well, it was an easy mistake to make. Not really. And I said, how so? Well, you look so young. Okay. And I said, well, thank you very much. And I said, well, that's my DNA. That's got nothing to do with this. Thank you. Moving along. And then I caught something. And it was a long, long meeting. It was over 3 hours in length. It didn't need to be. We could have got it done in an hour. And then I caught 2 things. And the first one that I caught was, and it was a form they weren't going to give me. Oh, you won't need this. And I said, well, you know what? I'm here. Let me have a look. And what they had done was that they had activated it says, when to activate. that all of the new things they were saying yes to, because this is a transfer from one person no longer with us to another person who is the guardian of this, right? Okay. The activation was January 31st, 2024. And I said, well, what's that date? Oh, that's just because the rules change at the turn of the year. And I said, no, but why is it 2024? Why is it January 31st, 2024? This is October the 18th, 2023. Well, we're going to have to, of course, have all of these documents verified. And that was the second mistake that they launched into. And I said, I beg your pardon? And what they did, because they didn't, I'm not assuming anything. I was so busy listening to what they were saying. Because first of all, 2024 bothered me a great deal, January 31st, 2024. And secondly, the next thing. And the next thing was, well, of course, our back office will have to verify all these documents. And I said, these documents are stamped and signed by the Superior Court of this province. And they said, well, that's what it appears to be. And I said, these documents came in an envelope from a law firm, also initialing that these are the legitimate original documents. The stamp is here, the seal is here. And they said, well, we're going to have our people look at it. And I said, are you suggesting by any chance that this bank has greater authority than the Superior Court of this province? Are you seriously suggesting that, especially in these matters, which is their specialty? Well, it's just that some of these documents look highly unusual and highly irregular. And I said, have you noticed that every one of these documents is attached to an attestation signed by either a notary, a lawyer, or the Superior Court of Quebec as valid and accepted by those authorities? Oh, yes, it's just common practice. And I said, when this does go through review, how long will that take? Well, usually, although it can take less time, sometimes longer, depending on the volume, 3 weeks. And I said, when you say 3 weeks, do you mean 21 days? Yeah. So that would actually be 6 weeks because there's only 5 days in the week. Well, yes. And if there are holidays. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, so no, that's not how this is going to work because this is not acceptable. And I have already been through every hoop. Everyone has brought me these documents and assured me that the bank, it's all the bank needs. So here's what we're going to do. And then I explained to them what I was not going to leave until they had completed for me. And one of the things that I wanted them to complete for me was to remove from their hold some of the funds that were not locked or invested. And they said, oh, well, we can't possibly do that today. It would take a minimum of 3 working days, and today's Wednesday, so it would be sometime next week, and I'd have to check my calendar. And I said, no, we've opened my account. I'm the executor. We have all the legal documents. This is cash money that you're going to transfer so that I can remove it. And they said, well, we'll need to know the purpose for it. And that's when I realized that they were not representing me. This was not about assisting me. This had nothing to do with me. Their job was to keep money in the bank. And it's not that it was anything criminal or underhanded, or this is their job. They work for the bank. And they are the customer service. Let's call it, they are the go-between. And the go-between, the client initially was Dave. And I am now speaking on Dave's behalf. And then I realized that probably there are quarterly situations where you wait for certain benchmarks, right? And probably there are all kinds of rules and regulations. And if we take emotion out of it, and if we take confusion out of it, and if we take this makes no sense out of it, and we simply look at what took place, 3 people working for the bank took 3.5 hours to duplicate what had been done 3 months ago. And there were so many mistakes that could have brought everything to a screaming halt if I had missed any of them. Because, of course, as soon as there is a mistake of any kind on a legal document, the document is no longer valid, and the whole thing has to be done all over again. And that was what I had gone through with the documents coming from the court. And I thought, okay, it doesn't make any sense that this would be done so sloppily. And I was dumbfounded. When I got home, and I was exhausted because it was, 2 hours there, 3.5 hours with them, 2 hours home, fall down, remember to make something to eat, sit there and blink for a while. It just made no sense at all, unless the purpose was to keep the money in the bank. Legitimately. And when they asked me, we'll need to know what the money's for, when they said that, I looked at the individual who had represented Dave, who was the customer rep, and I said, on Dave's behalf, from the beginning of this process, I have asserted and I have signed on the bottom line to various legal entities and service providers that the costs incurred, they could rest assured that they would be covered in a timely manner. And I did that based on absolute guarantees, verbal and written, from an assortment of agencies whose job it was to forward money to cover those costs, none of which materialized for any number of reasons. And therefore, the juggling that I have had to do for the past 6 months has been to find alternative ways to do the thing I said I would do that kept Dave's reputation intact. And I said, I have compensated for people stating one thing and doing another for 6 months. And it ends today. And it ends today because my role, according to, and my job, according to, and my accessibility to those funds is clearly a green light. And therefore, you will do as I ask. And it was very interesting. They had spent a long time saying these kinds of things were never done. This was highly irregular. There was no way this, that, or the other thing. And all of a sudden, one of them said, give me a minute. Let me see what I can do. Got up, went away, came back with a piece of paper signed by the branch manager saying, they've made an exception in this case. And I said, well, thank you. Thank you. And then with this exception, in this case, in my little hot hand, all of us marched over to the teller. And what I had asked was done. It took 5 minutes to do the unthinkable. It took 5 minutes to do what was completely beyond bank policy. It took 5 minutes. And what that told me was that individual representing the bank, ostensibly representing Dave, had realized it was time to cut their losses. Now, I did my best, and I was exhausted. And in my capacity as Dave's representative, I set a lot of the Abby stuff aside. The Viking part of me, the more, what would you call it? Over the top Viking part of me. Yeah, I left her in the car. It only came out once. And And as soon as I did it, I thought, oh, shoot. So the woman whose office we were in till the end of time looked at her watch and said, I have another client waiting. And I said, sucks to be them. And they both blinked. I didn't notice whether the woman on the Zoom call blinked, but they both blinked. I thought, oops. Except that very shortly after that, that rep made a decision. And interestingly enough, as we walked over to the teller, two more things. We've been doing these videos a long time, V and me. And most of us know that one of the things on You Can't Do That on Television that got me a lot of popularity and made me a lot of money was this look. Right? Because Mom, it was so wonderful and perfect. Okay, but it's almost a reflex thing now. You know, I have to be so careful. So we're walking from this office, and I have to, you know, I was tired, but I was getting my second wind when somebody foolishly says, we have people waiting. I thought, really? It brought me right back. They, however, were looking a little, you know, ragged around the edges because 3 hours is a long time. And so as we're walking to the teller, one of them said, one of the reasons this is highly irregular is we don't keep this kind of money in the bank. It's a vault. There's a vault over there. What's in it? Cheese doodles? And I stopped myself. I stopped. I could feel my face going there, and I stopped myself. And I said, pardon? The other said, and this is just one of those wonderful things of timing. The other one said, well, this is a very busy branch, and we have to be very careful about how much money we give away. And I looked around, and I was the only person. I was the only person, other than that poor soul sitting in the chair waiting for my spot in her office. I was the only customer. We're a very busy branch. And I just turned and looked at her and I said, oh, of course. And I, you know, got to the teller, explained. And this obviously one of them, the first one, the older one left, okay, left me alone, probably went to bang his head on something. Dear God. When is it going to be January? How soon can we get this going? And then this one saying, I couldn't figure out how to do this, so I wasn't able to access that. And the teller's looking at her. The teller's doing my look. The teller's looking at her and going, ding, 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 you mean like that? Oh, how did you do that? And the teller said, why don't we take care of this and I'll show you later. Oh, okay. And so she said, well, I'll go away and I'll just let her know that so we both said bye-bye. And I turned to the teller and I said, I think I want to vote for you for president of this bank. And she said, oh, good. Would you like to nominate me too? And I said, I'm right there. Where's the form? And she said, listen, there are technical things that people who are in the offices aren't necessarily good at. And some of the new programs, you know, it's easy for them to not really know. And I said, okay. And she's grinning at me. And she said, so how much do you want? I told her, and she said, okay, so here's what normally happens. You know, I give you a temporary debit card, and then I walk you through it, and I walk you over, and we activate it at the ATM. And I said, right. And she said, and then you can have a certain amount here, but you need the permanent card, and that'll come in the mail. And I said, right. So, but you can have a certain amount here, and you can have a different amount at the ATM. And she said, is that going to be sufficient? And I said, no, it isn't. No, I told them clearly what I need today. And she looked at it and she said, you know, you can go to another branch and get the residual. And I said, so you mean it's not a limit on the day? And she said, no, it's a limit at the branch on the day. And I said, really? And she said, well, that's how we work. Okay. And I thought, how interesting is that? Because no other bank that I've ever dealt with. But I digress. And then she was in the middle of, filling out the form, and she said, "Tell me how much it is that you need to take today." And I told her, and she kind of just did a very quick like this, and she said, "You know what? How long have you been here?" And I said, "Since 1492." And I drove in from Ottawa, and she said, "And you're driving home today?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, I'm not going to make you walk over to the other branch. I'm not going to." She said, let me see what I can do. I'm going to get a sign off on this." And she went away, and she came back in about, 30 seconds with a piece of paper with a signature on it. And she said, "Here we go. Let's do this." And in less than 15 minutes, I was in my car heading home, because a teller saw what was expedient was also the right thing to do, and did it. And had she done that at my first meeting, had she been the person I spoke to at all the meetings, with her attitude and her go get it and figure it out and sort through the red tape and whatnot, I would have a completely different opinion of the safety and the sanctity of Dave's investments, Dave's life commitment to security and protecting his loved ones. I would have a completely different opinion. As it was, I came away very confused, very exhausted. And as I said at the beginning, it was late at night. I woke up and I said to myself, and this is the subject of the video today, long involved story leading into it this time, and not a funny one really, unless you count the eye roll and the sucks to be them thing. They weren't making any mistakes if their job was to delay. If their job was to slow the process of transition, not at my expense, but on behalf of the bank, then everything they did was a process that they were just accustomed to follow. And when I woke up and I said, well, I've been assuming that we were on the same page. I've been assuming that the client was their priority. But in fact, and this is not in any way meant to denigrate a financial institution. They have a purpose, they have a function. However, their purpose and their function working with the general public is only part of what they do. They also have an obligation to their shareholders, to the company itself, to the organization itself, to grow and prosper. These are completely legitimate intentions and purposes and goals. They take some of the money and invest it so it grows. Some of what they earn, they give back to the customer in dividends. This has always been how banking works. It's not dishonest. It's not unscrupulous. It's not underhanded. It's not any of those things. If you remove all of the emotion from it, it is absolutely logical. Absolutely logical. It is the way to achieve the end. However, what has fallen through the cracks here is the cumulative effect of things like disconnection with the advent of technology that allows us to communicate long distance, arm's length, and we are no longer spending as much time as we used to face to face. Everything, so not everything, but so many things are virtual now. And while we can have the satisfaction of a Zoom call, while we can have the faction of seeing somebody's face and hearing their laugh and saying, "Oh God, I miss you," while we can have that, intrinsically as animals, as humans, we require physical contact to feel safe. We require physical closeness together, the tribe, the cave. We require that because it's hardwired into us from primeval days. Remove it, delete it. It doesn't mean we're ready. That there is technology doesn't mean that we're ready. That we can get on a plane here and end up over there in a matter of hours instead of months doesn't mean we're ready. That we can does not mean we're going to just say, oh, I got this. Everything is disorienting. Everything is confusing. Everything renders us emotionally overwhelmed. And what happens in that kind of environment, in that kind of soup, is that people start shutting down. They can't manage so much being thrown at them, so they begin to shut down. And we see the evidence of it. I have said every time I've talked about it, that the time spent in those hospitals, driving up and down the highway, in the middle of the dark, getting to the places, talking to the doctors, the nurses, the people that, you know, from the person sweeping the sidewalk outside, the person changing the garbage bag in the garbage pail in the hospital room, the person renewing toilet paper, the person down in the commissary saying, oh, here's your change, and have a nice day, and looking you in the eye when they say it, instead of good and you, instead of like the real connection that I had with literally hundreds of people every day kept me sane. And I think the opportunity for them to connect was keeping them sane, because the work they do, surrounded by loss and grief and fear and disconnection and overwhelm, they have to maintain contact somehow, or they burn out and they can't do their job. If we don't police that, if we don't support that, if we don't say, I got you, and look each other in the eye when we say it, I got you, the feeling we take away is that no one got us, and we're all alone in this. And we didn't pack a map. And that is truly terrifying. When I came home last night, I reached out and talked to a couple of friends to anchor myself with people who face the same way I do. And they were going, bless their hearts, were going, what? What? And I was so gratified, because that's what I kept saying either out loud or in my head all day yesterday. What? And then I thought, shut up. You know, I just stop doing that because it's not helpful. But they were doing it. Well, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Vern. It's good to see you. It's just the most gobsmackingly mind-boggling nonsense while I was resolutely facing this way. The minute I went, boop, everything was logical. Everything made sense. I think I was probably giving them a lot of credit for some of the stupidity. I think the stupidity was just inbred, and that maybe have been why they were hired. No, I'm sorry. That's so rude. That's so rude. Let's say they were overwhelmed. And I could see some of it. But the rest of it, nah, I don't think so. So the reason for this video topic today, aside from giving me a chance to vent, thank you, is because if it's happening to me, it's happening to you in various ways, on various levels, to various degrees, right? And we are the ones who can mind boggle because we were taught to think. Thank you, Vern. Yeah, think or thwim. So here's the thing I want to talk about today, because this applies to a couple of my clients right now. Because what I'm doing, Pivotree in Motion is an umbrella that I am creating to, hold over people, to protect them, and also to give them the ability, teaching them how to hold the umbrella themselves so they got their own umbrella moving forward. Because I'm not doing umbrella holding valet parking. Thank you till the end of time. What I'm trying to explain to people, and this was such a perfect, oh my heavens above, perfect example, is this. And we all know this, and I have said it many times, and I'm going to say it again. We can only see the world through our eyes. We can only see the world through our eyes, over which there are our filters, and our filters are there based on all of our previous life experiences. The example that I use is when we were small, the first time we saw a puppy or a kitten. If the animal startled us and it frightened us, our first impression of a puppy or a kitten is that it's dangerous. If our first introduction to a puppy or a kitten was adorable and cuddly and funny and made us laugh, our takeaway is that a puppy and or a kitten are adorable and fabulous, and we want to have them all over us and around us for the rest of time. That filter is there, and it's invisible to us unless and until somebody reminds us that our first encounter was good or bad, positive or negative. And have we ever considered that that might be why we see things the way we see them? Because, by the way, the dog is just a dog. The cat is just a cat. People who have a fear of water, okay, but water, we need water. We are water. So it's based on something, some story we told ourselves, or we were told, that may or may not have been completely true. And by the way, we are the author. We hold the pen. It's our life. It's our story. We can rewrite it. We can do a revision. We can be our own editor. New edition. It's all doable. It's all perfectly, perfectly legitimate when we think about it that way. Frankly, Scarlett's, I had never really thought one way or the other about people working in a bank. I'd never, we just go in and we take out the money and we thank them very much and have a nice day. I had never been in a position like this before, and therefore everything is new for me. And I think, to my credit, not to my credit, but certainly to my benefit, and it's a blessing, all the chapters of my life have made me more and more and more able to focus very, very narrowly, laser focus on the specific thing at hand to get it right so I can move on without second guessing myself. Because while we're second guessing, we're not here being amazing. So those are my ingrained habits now. For a lot of people, it's not. And so one of my clients has been struggling with this. Why do they keep expecting me to do everything? And the answer is, have you always done it? Well, yes, but only because, stop. The reason they expect it is because you've always done it. Oh, let's talk about that. Why have you always done it? Well, because, I'm good at it, and I didn't really, and I felt, kind of deny this. Okay, so what you're telling me is that you feel in some way responsible, and that you feel capable, and therefore you feel that it's your role in the relationship to be compensating for them. Is that correct? Oh, I never really thought of it that way. Okay, that's not a relationship then. That's a caregiver. It's a nurse. It's a white knight. It's not a relationship. It's a job function. A relationship is a two-way street. When you do that for them, what do they do for you? Of equal value. It doesn't have to be the same, but there's a give and take. That's how relationships are built. Oh, well, I said, no, of equal value. What do they do? And she said, well, oh. And I said, so here's a thought. Your agenda is to be a great friend. You're assuming that's their agenda as well. Well, yes. I said, what if it isn't? What do you mean? I said, your agenda doesn't have to be their agenda. We're friends. Really? Then let's re-examine the definition of friendship. Because if you're doing all the heavy lifting and they are expecting it of you because you have always done the heavy lifting, that's not an equal relationship. That's a give and a take. But usually we're supposed to give and take ourselves, and so are they. Not you all the give and them all the take. That's not it. Oh my God. And so when I reached out last night to one of my clients and I said, so I want to tell you a story. What happened to me yesterday or today? And the answer was, oh my God. Well, they were using you. And I said, no, they weren't using me. They were doing their job. Probably they were doing their job. I just assumed that they had a different job. My bad. As soon as I realized what their job probably is, they weren't doing anything to me. They were bringing to the table what was expected of them to do their job. Thundering silence on the phone. Oh my God. And I said, and the reason I'm sharing this with you at this ungodly hour, and I have to go and have supper and then fall down, is because I want you to take what I've told you about today, and I want you to think about your situation, because I don't think it's that different. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make, and it's not, oh, we could do it better. It's not that. This is what I'm talking about today. The topic today is, wait, are we on the same page? That's the topic today. This is a pause a moment. Let me check. Because if we're not on the same page, then we are making assumptions that are completely unhelpful to us. And if we are not helping us, and it's not their job to help us first and foremost, then who is? Who is helping us? If it's not their job, and we've gone AWOL, who is looking after us? Probably we're not all on the same page precisely. Probably there are glitches. And I think what we need to remember are two things. I'm sorry, I'm looking off. I'm thinking about the things that we need to remember, and I apologize. I think the things we have to remember look like this. Let's say we both care about a quality relationship shared between the two of us. Let's start there. And let's say, Freddie, some people are on different books. There's that. That's a whole other. You're amazing, Freddie. So let's start with, let's say everybody has the best of intentions going in. Let's give us that. And then let's say a couple of things happen. One is familiarity doesn't necessarily breed contempt. Familiarity brings sloppiness. We don't have the same absolute attention to every detail 17 years into doing something or 17 shows into the run of a performance as we did on opening night. Why? Well, because we think we're good at it and we start multitasking. And you know my definition of multitasking, doing many things badly. And we don't think we're doing them badly because we've forgotten what we were doing the first night. So what if everything starts on a level playing field? And gradually, the grinding repetition of it dulls our excitement. And we end up going through the motions. We end up just kind of showing up and putting in the time and looking forward to lunch and coffee break and 5 o'clock and weekends and retirement. We are no longer bringing to the job what we claimed we would be bringing at the job interview. And we are certainly no longer bringing on Friday at 3 o'clock what we probably brought Monday around 10 after coffee. Who is responsible for that lack of consistency? We are. If that is going on inside each and every one of us, and it probably is, let's say we're all really good drivers. Every single one of us has done the thing my dad used to warn me about. My dad used to say, when you're driving, this was before they came up with defensive driving. My dad, I must have been, 15, he said, always drive as though everybody on the road is an outpatient. I said, everybody? Yes, including us. Because how many times have you kind of blindly gone around a corner and then the horns honk and you realize that it was a red light because you were looking at the light down? Like, we've all done those things. Doesn't make us bad drivers. It made us not present in that moment drivers, because we all get a little distracted by things. It's very difficult to remain focused and sharp 100% of the time. Okay. Let's be that forgiving, and let's set that as the base. The really important thing to do, and this is very sneaky, one of the reasons we want people to be the way we want them is a function of a control issue. This other client of mine said, well, we're related. That's my child. I would naturally assume that they would do what I would do. Why? Well, because. No. Why? What do you mean, why? I said, well, it's not 100% your DNA. They're not your clone. They're not your twin. They're a separate human. And part of their DNA is somebody else's DNA. It's not kapakata. It's a different person. Yeah, but I raised them. Mm-hmm. And then they went to school and somebody else raised them while they weren't with you. And then they got a part-time job and somebody raised them who wasn't you. Lots of lessons, lots of rules, lots of filters, lots of assumptions, not yours. Oh my God. Good morning, Paul. Sorry to break it to you. I love you guys. We want things to be the way we want them. I read somewhere quite a long time ago, you're walking down the street and you're thinking about you and you're thinking about the complications in your life. And we never really stop to think that every single other person we see on the street, you just stop and look. How many people immediately like this when you do like this? You're sitting at a red light. How many people? 10, 50, 2? You realize that every single one of them has going on in their head what we have going on in ours. Not identical, but they're thinking about all the people they know and why the diet didn't work and these pants don't fit. And gosh, I wish I hadn't eaten that cheeseburger. And they have all the similar kinds of things going on in them that we do. All we see is the outside of them. There's a whole lot more going on the inside, as it is with us. We can't live our lives constantly wondering what they're up to, because then we would never be living our lives. The other thing we have to try to stop doing is assuming that if I know them and they're my friend, then they will be thinking about this the way I do. Not so. Every so often, I'll have a conversation with Carol. I've known Carol forever. We've been in the same career path forever. We know so many of the same people forever, right? But every so often, she will say or do something, or I will say or do something, and we both go, what is wrong with you? And part of the surprise is that we didn't see it coming from them. Why not? I'm not her. She's not me. Why couldn't she do something completely different? Well, the answer is, of course she can. Of course she can. So everything that comes as a surprise to us is ours to own. Everything. We couldn't see it all coming, but we have to be prepared in the eventuality that it does. We have to have our plan, and we have to have the response plan and the preemptive strike plan. And we have to know the combination on the lock to door number 3. We need to know that if we're going to go out there in the world and not get run over by the first bus we didn't see coming. Flatten, lying there. I meant to do that. We owe it to ourselves to recognize that every single creature on the planet has their own agenda, not in conflict with us necessarily. They come with their own perspective, they come with their own filters, they come with their own biases, they come with their own taught beliefs and assumptions made. And every single day, in every single moment, which is why we should be present as much as we can, we make decisions based on all that stuff we got going on. What on earth would make me assume that 2 people, 3, when you count the Zoom lady, that I barely know, certainly don't know their favorite flavor of ice cream, would remotely have the same agenda and priorities as mine? What am I thinking? How could they? Why would they? And did I bump my head this morning? And the answer is because I wanted it to be that way. I wanted everything to be the way I wanted it to be. That's the little inner kid in me. Why don't they like me? They do like you. They just like you from where they're standing with all the other stuff they're juggling. That is the thing we have to remember. That is the message today. If we are not on the same page, okay, can we still be friends? Absolutely. If it's good for us, if it's as good for us as it is for them. You know that Whiffum song, What's in It for Me? We all sing it. I sing it. It causes chaos in the streets when I sing it. But we all do. And if somehow along the way we've decided that what's in it for me is to serve them, what's in it for me is to burden myself with guilt or assumptions or superstitions. Okay, why would you do that? Why not lean in to all the things we have going for us? Why not wake up and go to bed every day grateful that we got another day? Why not say, yeah, I'm walking here. And I see you walking here. I see you. Want to be friends for a minute while we're crossing the same street together? People you meet in the elevator? What is it, a 30-second ride? How's your day? Oh, not bad. Good. Is it snowing yet? And everybody always laughs. No, I don't think so. Good. I said, I know I set the bar low, but every morning I look out the window and say, okay, so it's not snowing. And they all laugh. Somebody said, you're so positive. I am. Why wouldn't I be? When I'm not positive, I get all these lines. Look at this. No, I don't want to look like that. I want to look like this. I want to feel like this. So I am. That's my page. So I am claiming my page. I claimed it yesterday, I'll tell you. I'm claiming it today, and I'll be claiming it tomorrow. It does not mean that everybody else has to claim it the same way. They get to own their page. And what we're hoping is that maybe they're facing pages, and we can wave to each other and say, it's great to see you. Is it snowing yet? That is, I think, how we can own what I finally saw, witnessed, felt, understood, computed yesterday. People aren't doing it to us. They're doing it. End of story. Oh, no, P.S. So are we. We're not doing it to them. We're doing it. All of a sudden, the way is a little clearer. right? Okay. Well, what a week that was, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, humans of all shapes and sizes. Wow. I have some really fun things that are happening in my life starting tomorrow. A couple of really lovely fans, former fans of You Can't Live on Television, still fans of You Can't Live on Television, but we've become friends and they become involved with me in the Pivot 3 project. So they decided to take a vacation, and they live down in the southern states, and they have already completed first leg of the journey. They're now looking at the Niagara Falls, and they'd never seen it before, and they're just gobsmacked and loving it. And the next thing they're going to do is they're going to make their way across the border into Canada for the first time in their lives. And they're going to be visiting one of my former children down in right across the border in his town where he now lives, where he now works. They're going to have lunch. And then they're going to make their way up to Ottawa. And I'm going to connect with them. And they sent me a list of the things they've always wanted to see in Canada's fair capital. And I'm going to show it to them. So it's going to be an interesting, and of course it's going to rain on one of the days. That's okay. After it rains, it stops and we can go and do other stuff. So it's going to be a very busy weekend. And I don't often get an opportunity to do this. And so I'm excited because they're great people and they've been through stuff. That's why they're part of the Pivot 3 project. They've been through stuff, as we all have, right? And the way we come out the other side with our dignity and our elegance and our sense of humor and our sanity intact is by policing our boundaries, feeling blessed and grateful that we have them, and saying, I'm walking here. Hey, are you walking here too? Good. Let's walk together. That's how it works. That's how it works. So until next time, you know the drill, right? Be good to you. You deserve it. Don't make assumptions, or at least try not to. And remember to hug your loved ones. They deserve it too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.